And we're back with another video. Dimple85 here. This one is going to be over me attempting to do acrylic nails on myself. This wasn't the first time. I think it was the second time. But I was like, you know what? I tried to film it the first time. Didn't work out. But I was like, you know what? I think this will be helpful for people, particularly people who live in areas where they just don't have nail techs, where they do a good job, which happened to me, or B, because of COVID cases spiking, their nail shops or their nail techs stop accepting people, or they're accepting a limited amount of people. So the first thing you want to do, and I'm not an expert by any means, I've basically watched a ton of videos. I am a YouTube expert. I have read a bunch of articles and just figured it out. The first thing you want to do is remove the shine from your natural nails and push back your cuticles. I am using what's referred to as a mandrel bit to do that, sanding bit. And here I am taking a cuticle bit to go over my cuticles. Some people use the cuticle nippers, the things where they cut around your cuticles, but I was scared to do that and I didn't want to start bleeding, so I just use a cuticle bit. Something that I'm not showing on camera, but I feel like it's a real life hack or tip, is that before you use any drill or bit on yourself, check it on your skin, which you don't see me doing on camera, but I literally turn it on and just nick myself on my skin to see, well, is it up too high? Does it feel too abrasive? And I go from there. Also, as you can see, I needed a prop because I'm doing it myself. It's a little bit harder if you're not used to doing, I'm not ambidextrous. I'm definitely right-handed, so having to do both, my left and right hand, was a challenge for me. So it might be a good idea also to use props to kind of help you along the way. Alright, so next thing is the application. This is where you're going to take the glue and glue on your nails. As you can see, I have kind of already pre-labeled the nails from smallest to largest. It really drives me up the wall that like a 1 is considered the largest and 10 is considered the smallest. So I could not get with that in my head, so I made myself a little note on my nail kit. But I kind of looked at the nails pre-measured beforehand to try to figure out, well, what is the sizing that I should use? And if for whatever reason a nail is a little bit too big, you'll see in some of the clips, or you already saw where I was out of the frame, where I just took a hand file and just filed the edges just a little bit to make it fit a little bit better. And this is pretty much what you're going to do for all of your nails. I'm going to show you me putting the nails on myself on both my left and right hand. It was a little bit of a struggle just because, like I said, it's hard to do it on yourself and to do it with your non-dominant hand. So it was easy for me to do my left hand because I was using my dominant hand. I was using my right hand to do it, but I definitely struggled a little bit with my left hand. My left hand trying to do my right hand. So I'm going to put like times of how long it really took me to do everything, because when you watch YouTube, it's sped up, and so you feel like it's quick and it's easy. And I would say it's just like any other skill. You have to practice it. It does take you longer when you're starting out. All in all, I would say it took me between anywhere, I would say like roughly like 4 hours to do the entire process with application, nail art, all of that. So again, I'm showing you here the clip on the left. It looks like I'm putting it on my left hand, which is my dominant hand, and then the clip on the right, I'm showing you how I would apply to my right hand using my non-dominant hand. So I split that to kind of show you both, and it was a little bit harder, like I said, to use my non-dominant hand, and I was a little bit out of the frame. Like I said, it's my first time filming it, but it was just more so to show you all the process and give you a realistic time of how long it takes and what tools I used. So that's what that is. All right, now comes probably the easiest part in the process to me, which is just figuring out how long you want the nails and cutting off the excess nail. I'm using a nail cutter, but you can use like nail scissors to cut it, or fingernail clippers, whatever you have on hand. The only important thing is that you just make sure that both hands are even, and I was a pretty good judge of character. For the most part, they were even. I think it was only one where I had to go back, and then it was this one right here where I had to go back, and one was a little bit longer than the other. I just look at it and kind of guess. I don't know how to teach you how to do that. I literally just guessed, and for the most part, I got them all exactly the same length. I think it just comes from getting my nails done so often. I saw this tip where if you want your nails to be a little bit more like curved, like a C curve, you kind of squeeze them in. So that's what I was doing there. Again, don't know if it works. I just watched a bunch of videos and it seemed to make all the difference in the world. Here, you also want to go ahead and make sure you have the shape that you want. If you're a beginner like me or you're doing it on yourself, I highly recommend that you just purchase the nail tips that you like. So if you like stiletto, I would purchase stiletto tips. If you like coffin, I would probably purchase coffin tips, just to make it easier so that when it comes time to file, you don't have to do too much work. I wanted square. I really love square nails. They're like my favorite. So these tips work perfectly for the shape that I wanted. And I think this is like considered natural, the color, but you can also get them in clear, but you know, doesn't really make a difference. You're gonna paint it. Now here is where I think being an expert comes in. I went through quite a few nail bits trying to figure out, well, which one works best. Why is this one not sanding down? What you're trying to do here is you are trying to actually make the fill-in kind of match your natural nail to where it's smooth. So as you can see, I switched from using the e-file and just picked up my hand file because I just felt like I was not doing a good enough job. It wasn't smooth, and I really think that's just because I was using the wrong type of nail bit. So if you feel like dang, this taking me a long time, or this not doing the job, you can always go back to your e-file. To be honest, I love not the e-file, I'm sorry, you can go back to your hand file. To be honest, I love the hand file. It just takes a lot longer, but like I said, if you don't have an e-file or you don't have all the appropriate bits, like I think that was considered a diamond bit, and I think it wasn't smoothing it because it's not meant to be used for that purpose. So don't forget, you don't have to have an e-file. You can always use your hand file. Now here, what I'm doing is applying my dehydrator and my bond. As you can see, there are two bottles and they look clear. And I'm basically going across the nail, and from my understanding from YouTube University, what the dehydrator does is, again, takes off any additional shine. And then here is the bond, which is the second one. It pretty much allows the acrylic to adhere to your natural nail, as well as, well, it adheres to the acrylic nail, but basically to adhere to your natural nail. And you cannot skip these steps. I don't know what'll happen if you do, but I'm assuming that your application won't go smoothly. All the videos I watched, they talked about how important it was, and also try not to oversaturate your natural nail because it can cause an allergic reaction. Okay, here we are, the big boy, the acrylic application, which for me by far is the hardest. You are going to need some monomer. And this is the product that actually smells like the nail shop. And if you go get your nails done, you know exactly what I mean. It smells really, really loudly. So I strongly encourage you, open up some windows. My dog was in the room with me. I literally had to kick him out of the room, shut the door, because the entire house smelled like acrylic, upstairs, downstairs. Like as soon as you came through the door, it was a very loud. So, and also when you're finished with this step, I just scoot the trash, like the paper towel, to the side, but really you want to like take it outside. You want to dispose of it because it has a very loud odor, and it will still like fill the air. The particles will still fill the air. Again, this was very hard. I'm no expert. Pretty much what I gathered was or my process is to wet my brush and then dap it in the acrylic depending on how large of a bead I want, either 1 or 2 times, and then to literally put it on my nail. I start in the center and work down, something that I'm not doing here, which I know I should be doing, but again, this is where practice comes into play. You should point your nail down because it levels the product, and my nail is kind of just sitting flat, and so it's kind of hard to move the product around if your nail is kind of pointing upwards or just flat. So if you point your nail down, it really kind of moves down for you to where you don't have to work as hard. And as you can see, I'm pointing it down here. I finally figured it out, like, oh, I need to point my nail down. And it's pretty much a culmination of moving around the product, tapping it, and just putting it wherever I see fit. And if it's not smooth, you see me stroking backwards and just tapping off additional product, and that's pretty much my process. Again, not an expert. You can watch tons of expert videos to figure out the science behind it, but this is just what works for me. Again, here I see that there's some spaces that are missing a little bit of product, so I'm just going in to try to level it out. You want to have most of the product in the center of your nail, but you also want to make sure you're not missing like the edges. And again, this is where practice comes into play, where if you study it and you practice it, you get better with time. I did not speed this up. I really wanted you to see in real time how long it took me just to do one hand. And I can say that I struggle the most with the first finger that I do, because I guess it's just trying to get like the memory or what works together. And then my pinky, I struggle a lot because I think it's so small. I think I use too much product. So here I'm just cleaning it up, taking off whatever product I don't want. And again, don't expect it to be perfect your first time. You're not an expert in real life. You're just practicing on yourself. So give yourself a little bit of grace. You know, the nail techs, they make it look really easy, but that's because they're experts and they've had a ton of practice. Okay, so here is probably like the third nail I've done. So again, dap it in water, rub my brush along the edge. Depending on the size of bead I want, I tap it into the acrylic powder like 3 times. Point your nail down, put the bead in the center of the nail, and as you can see, it's kind of going down itself, but I'm also moving it down. I need to get better about that, just taking the time to actually let it fall itself, or move down itself. It's a self-leveling product, which helps a lot, so that you don't have to work as much. All you have to do is really focus on making sure that your edges are clean and clear. And also sometimes I do try to push back my cuticle a little bit, just to make sure that I'm fully covering it. And my last tip, again, I'm tapping one more time. I wanted a smaller bead, so for my smaller beads, I tap twice, larger bead 3 times into the acrylic powder. Something that I recommend for beginners as well as first timers is to not use clear acrylic powder. And the reason why I suggest not using clear acrylic powder is because it's really hard to tell the difference between your natural nail and the acrylic and monomer mix, because they're all clear. So I would probably order like a really like light pink, or like a off-white or beige, some type of acrylic powder that's still sheer enough but still has some color to where you can see it, and that will make the world of difference when you are doing your nails. And as you can see here, I'm just cleaning up around the cuticle area. Again, you're not an expert, so you're probably more than likely going to get some of it on your skin. If you do, it's okay. Don't flip out. Just clean it up. And as you can see, I'm showing you the nail. It turns out pretty okay. And if it doesn't, we still gonna go over it with the e-file and our hand file. So we're not gonna stress out about it too much. So here I'm speeding it up just to show you again the process, but I've shown you in real time it does take me a little bit of time, not as quick with it as the experts. Alright, so here I decided to show you a clip of me using my non-dominant hand, which is my left hand, to apply the acrylic and monomer powder to my right hand. And as you can see, how I hold the brush is completely different. Even how I hold or position my hand is completely different. What I do is I use my left hand to move the product, but I also move my right hand a little bit more to kind of make it easier for me to put the product where I want it to go. So again, for my acrylic application, what I do is pretty much place it in the center. I drag or pull it or let it run down to where I want it to be. I try to clean up the edges along the way. And when I am looking to use a larger bead, what I'll pretty much do is I'll dip it in the monomer, which I keep referring to as a water. So if you hear me say water, I'm talking about the monomer. Sorry, y'all. But for a larger bead, I'll dip it in the monomer and then I'll tap it in the acrylic powder 3 times. For a small bead, I will, again, monomer, tap it in the acrylic powder once. And for like a medium-sized bead, then again, monomer, tap it into the acrylic powder twice. So that's pretty much my process, and then I try to clean up the edges to try to keep the same nail shape. But again, practice makes perfect, so don't expect to be perfect. If they're like bumps or it's not all the way completely smooth, don't flip out, because you are going to go over it either with your e-file or with your hand file at the end of it. Something that I did not show, but it's equally important. After your acrylic application, go ahead and clean out your brush. If you sit it down to let it dry or you feel like you're going to come back to it, the acrylic will get hard in the brush and it's a lot harder to get out once it's hard. So make sure you do that. But here all I'm doing is making sure I still have my shape I like, and now I'm going back over it with my e-file and my hand file, switching it out because I just wasn't sure. To be honest, I wasn't sure what type of bit I should be using. Okay, I was not. I've done a little bit more research since then, and you can use a diamond bit to go over afterwards, but I'm just not completely comfortable with my e-file. And if you're not comfortable with the e-file or you just don't know which bit to use, then you can always use the hand file. And what you want to do is you want to check to make sure that the nail is smooth. So any areas where maybe that application was a little bit lumpy or it was rough, you want to try to smooth it out as best as you can. And so I use my diamond bit, and I've learned since filming this that you don't want to go up and down, or vertical. You want to go like from left to right or horizontal, because it flattens out the apex, which is the center of the nail, which is supposed to be the strongest portion of the nail, to pretty much help it, like if you hit it or something like that, to keep it from breaking off. So I've learned that since then. So even though you see me doing it in this video, I'm constantly learning and trying to perfect my craft so that when I do this again, I know what not to do. So again, when you are going back over to file and shape your nail, try your hardest not to do so vertically. You want to go like from left to right or right to left, or what they refer to as horizontally. And if you're uncomfortable with your e-file or you're heat spiking, because I did heat spike once, and it really does hurt. If you're uncomfortable, but I don't feel bad about heat spiking because I used to go to the nail shop and sometimes they would heat spike me there. So if you do, again, it's not that deep. It's okay. Just go ahead and go to your hand file, and again, you can rub it. You can even look at the nail. What I find is looking at it from different angles. So if you see me moving my nail around a lot, you want to look at it like from the top, the back, from the sides. It really does help to give you a better view, because any imperfections or things you miss, it definitely shows when you go to the painting process. And as you can see, I was rubbing it like, oh, it don't quite feel smooth. You need to file it some more, because like I said, those things show when it comes time to paint. And I'm going to be honest, it's not going to be perfect your first time, but for the amount of money you save, I was very, very pleased with the end product. I got compliments on those nails. Like, a few people asked me who did them, and I was like, oh, I did them, child. But again, don't like expect it to be 100% perfect, but it's definitely doable. You just got to practice and be willing to learn and be patient with yourself, because it is a learning process. So again, here just going over with my diamond bit to try to get my edges together to make sure if any product has leaked over into the cuticle that I get a little bit of it out. If I'm being completely honest, I don't understand why this part needs to be done, but every single video I watched on YouTube says that you need to go over it and make sure that the acrylic is not necessarily in the cuticle area. I guess just because the product should not be touching, maybe for allergy reasons, who knows. But again, I just follow the videos. This part is really hard to do, and to be very honest, I ate up my cuticle using that e-file. But I just tried to go slow. And again, a pro tip for you is to check your e-file on your skin first. So before you actually put it on your nail, check your skin first to see, like, okay, if I do nick myself, which more than likely you will because you're not an expert, how bad is it gonna hurt? And so that helped a lot. I also use props. As you can see, I'm positioning my hand however I need to. You can see right here I'm using my non-dominant hand, so that makes it a little bit harder to do. So sorry I'm in the frame a little bit, but you know, we're trying to make it work by any means necessary. I was also pulling my skin back a little bit in areas where I was afraid that I might nick myself. So do what you got to do, and if you have to clean up under your nails, you are more than welcome to do that as well. So this is pretty much where if you made any boo-boos or you messed up, this is where you go back and perfect it and just clean up your work. And that's pretty much what I'm doing here. Whew, so once you make it here, this is like the final step. You want to go over and buff the nail again. This just smooths everything out because a lot of times when you're using your drill and your e-file, your nail is really, really rough. So you want to make sure it's smooth, and that smoothness is going to allow that polish to go on so much quicker. This was for Valentine's Day, so I was doing Valentine's Day inspired nails. So if you want to see what they came out to be, I'll post pictures at the end, but if you actually want to see the video, I will link the video here. You want to clean off your nails with some alcohol, or you can wash your hands, and that's pretty much it. So thank you for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe.